Hello and welcome to another Tri-tutors video. In today's video, we're going to be working through some exam style questions on the scene poem This Winter Coming. So before we get started, I would highly recommend that you watch a couple of videos before attempting to answer these questions. So firstly, you need to have a listen to the scene poetry video that I made a couple of years ago. I would also recommend that you watch the video where I analyze the poem This Winter Coming line by line, because we're not going to actually read through the poem now, we're just going to be focusing on the questions. So go and watch that video before attempting these questions, please. And then lastly, I would suggest that you watch the video on the solitude questions, the poem Solitude. I've made a video of those questions because in the introduction to that video I've given a bit more of an idea in a detailed sort of understanding of how you need to be answering poetry questions in general. Alright, let's get into these questions. Question 1 says, refer to lines 1 and 2. Account for the enjambment. It's a 2-mark question, so we're going to have to show the marker that we know what enjambment is and explain why it's there. Question 2. Refer to line 4. Explain the effectiveness of the alliteration. So here we have to show what the alliteration is and explain why it's effective. Question 3. Refer to stanza 4. How does the metaphor enhance the mood of the poem? So this is a 3-mark question, so it's going to require a bit more to get our marks. So we're going to have to explain what the metaphor is, explain the mood of the poem, and show how they enhance each other and work together. And number 4, refer to the whole poem, evaluate how the refrain, the repeated question at the end of each stanza, contributes to the theme and tone of the poem. 3 marks, so we've got to explain the refrain, we've got to explain the tone and the theme and how they all work together. So I encourage you to pause the video, to try answer these yourselves, and then to resume when you're ready to mark. I hope that you gave those questions a go. So now let's go through some model answers. Obviously your answers are going to be slightly different to mine because none of us can write the same English answers. That's the beauty of English. But pay attention to how I'm writing, how focused and concise the response is, but also how well explained the response is, and the different aspects that are going to get you the different marks that are allocated per question. So question 1, refer to lines 1 and 2, account for the enjambment. So I'm going to start by explaining the enjambment and then explain its effect. The enjambment run on lines is used to show the continuation of winter. It emphasizes how the period of uncertainty has already started and is progressing. Question 2. Refer to line 4. Explain the effectiveness of the alliteration. The alliteration of the sibilant S sound in sea is swollen is effective as it emphasizes the swelling of the ocean and mimics the sound of the violently churning waves. Question 3. Refer to stanza 4. How does the metaphor enhance the mood of the poem? In this stanza there are actually 2 metaphors, so you could have selected one to talk about. I've included both of them in this answer just to show you the different options, but you did not have to. You could have just explained one. And remember, something with poetry questions is that, or with any sort of questions in English, it's how you explain yourself that's really important. So you may even have a different interpretation or idea to me, but as long as you explain it thoroughly with evidence, then you have a chance to get your marks. The metaphor in this stanza compares men to old stumps and tombstones. This showcases the desperate situation of the men who stand on the street corners begging for money. Old stump suggests an old remnant of a tree that has been left behind, and tombstones imply that the men are already dead in some way. The metaphors dehumanize the men and emphasize the somber, foreboding, and pessimistic mood of the poem. So notice the 3 aspects of the question have been addressed, and therefore 3 marks will be awarded. And last question, question 4. Refer to the whole poem. Evaluate how the refrain, the repeated question at the end of each stanza, contributes to the theme and tone of the poem. So I circle my keywords. I have 3 things I need to discuss here to get 3 marks. The question of who is not frightened is repeated at the end of each stanza. The use of the question prompts the feeling of anxiety, and the phrasing of the question and the use of the word not implies that the default is to feel frightened. The theme of the poem is about oppression and the period of change, which has a foreboding sense of danger. The tone of the poem is fearful and ominous. Therefore, the refrain emphasizes the feeling of uncertainty and highlights how fear has permeated the entire country. Thank you for watching. I hope that you found this video helpful. I'll see you in the next one.